Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the chief creative officer and chief marketing officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume.
This is part 1 of our conversation with Heidi Blickenstaff.
Part 2 will be available next week. Unless it's the future, then it's available now.
So go on, give it a listen, and find out what's sparking Heidi these days.
Little baby Heidi.
Oh, Heidikins. The Sparkfile podcast may contain profanity and other adult content.
Please use your discretion.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I want to make or how I want to be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Welcome to the Spark File, your endless melody of creative inspiration.
I'm Laura Camion.
And I'm Susan Blackwell. If you're an OG listener, welcome back, Sparkler. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome, welcome. But you may be asking yourself, what exactly is a Spark File? Where do I get one? What do I file in it? These are such good questions, and we have got answers.
A Spark File is the place where you consistently collect all of your inspirations and fascinations. And if you're like us and you're making stuff all the time, sometimes the wellspring of inspiration can run a little dry. We are here to refill it.
We're on the lookout for fresh ideas, images, and inspiration that spark our creativity and pique our curiosity. Things that inspire us to get up off of our asses and make things like this podcast.
Or a concert of music that moves people, lifts them up, and blows their wigs backwards.
Or a song-a-day performance on social media that raises millions of dollars to help others.
Or an original stage character who doesn't have to fit the mold. The performer is the mold, not the smelly mold. You know, the mold.
Or a PSA empowering young people to stay home and flatten the curve.
On today's Makersode, we're going to talk with someone who truly sparks us.
And that special someone is Heidi Blickenstaff. Heidi, welcome to
the Spark File.
Thanks, ladies. You're two of my very favorite people on the planet. How are you guys?
We're so happy that you're here.
You.
Me too. Me too.
Heidi.
Me too.
Me three. Heidi, before we get into all of this, we have a small price of admission. First of all, we need to admit something. We want to acknowledge that you are our first guest recorded during quarantine times. And for the first time, we're not able to be in our room with our guest. Can you tell us, where are you? How are you doing? And what do you look like right now? What are you wearing?
All of my clothes are soft clothes.
I like where this is headed.
There are no buttons or zippers involved.
Easy
There's
access.
A lot of elastic.
Yeah, I am in New York City in my apartment in Harlem with my husband and our dog, Eleanor. And
Eleanor.
I know. And we've been here since March 13th, which I think was Friday the 13th. And we're fine. We are in incredibly grateful to be healthy when so many people in our city are not. And our families are healthy. My stepsons, his sons, are with their mom right now upstate at a farm, which sounds pretty great. And everybody's healthy there. And so we are definitely obediently doing what our governor is telling us to do, gladly and happily. And we're fine. My family in California is fine. I'm so happy to also say.
That's
but
great.
being in New York is crazy because there's a lot of sickness around us. We have lots of people in Harlem that have fallen ill, and we have neighbors. We had a neighbor across the street that sadly passed away and was found in his apartment, and they came and got him. I mean, it's definitely a crazy time, and it's really real for those of us in New York, where I think a lot of people in the rest of the country aren't necessarily experiencing such a dramatic version of COVID-19. But we are just fine. Thank you for asking.
It's interesting when we talk to our families that aren't in New York and describe, I don't know. I feel like they think it's
like overblown or something, or exaggerated in some way. Yeah.
But I think when you're in the middle of the hot zone, it is really real, and it is really, sometimes it feels desolate and sometimes it feels uplifting when, oh my gosh, I was Marco Poloing with Heidi yesterday, and it was right at 7 p.m. Eastern time, which was when everybody like cheers for the healthcare heroes and the people on the front lines. And, everybody throws open their windows and bangs pots and pans, and just like, I'm just talking about it, I'm getting chills right now. It is
truly, I don't know, surreal, uniting, unbelievable, thrilling. Literally 7 o'clock happens, and everybody, like Susan said, throws their windows open and just cheers and screams and it shows their gratitude and thanks for all of these essential workers that have been, doing what we cannot. There was a UPS guy that was coming out of the building across the way, and a couple days ago, I was like, "Thank you, UPS man!" And then all my other neighbors were like, "Thanks, UPS!" I just think everybody is so grateful for everybody who is delivering food, and of course the medical workers. And just the other morning, I was walking Ellie, and I saw a young man in scrubs headed to work, I assume. And I said, "Thank you so much." And he smiled. And, there is definitely a gratitude for all of these people that are working so hard for us in such a scary time.
Yeah. It always feels to me like for, the reputation that New Yorkers have to be rebellious and individualists in every way, we really know how to come together in a crisis.
Isn't that the truth?
And we have so much practice at it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of practice, but
sadly, that is also true. But lots of people that I've been talking to that are outside of New York City, they are like, "What's it like? Like, how are you doing? It must be terrible." And of course, it's terrible to be in the hot zone where we have, double at least the cases than the next hardest hit place. But at the same time, there is a New York pride that exists by being in a place where, shit goes down in New York. And when it does, New Yorkers pull it together with each other. And I'm so very proud to be in a place where a crisis makes us rise to the best version of ourselves, not the worst. So that you gotta love New York for.
Put. Yeah, that's really
I perfectly put something.
You perfectly put it.
Heidi, have you been on a podcast before? Have you podcasted before, Heidi Blickenstaff?
I listen to podcasts like it's my job.
But have you been on one?
I don't. I think you're popping my podcast cherry, Suze.
Oh my God.
That is filthy, and we're so happy to do so.
Here you are perfectly putting things. It's really exciting.
I know, but I'm such a fan of the show and also the genre in general.
I love podcasts. And so funny when people are like, I don't really listen to podcasts. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like you're missing out on so much goodness.
I
agree.
if
you could like something, you could be passionate about something that is so niche. It could be niche, and there are 17 podcasts that cover it. So pick your podcast. But listen, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, back to business as usual, the SparkFile price of admission, real quick. Heidi, you have to tell us a creative risk you've taken recently. And we know you've been swinging for the fences creatively these days. So just give us a taste and we're going to unpack it in a moment. Creative risk you've taken recently.
Well, I'm taking like 10 creative risks a day. So I'll tell you the creative risk I just took this morning before we started talking. Hot off the presses. So one of the things that I've had to do for this new thing that I have produced is get it out on social media. And I do okay on social media, but I'm not an oversharer. I don't love self-promotion. I've always sort of come to it. I don't know, like a little bit of it. It's been a chore for me, but because the thing that I have produced is for young people and they're so fluent in all things social media, I have learned to, and I don't know how good I am at it yet, so God bless, but I have learned how to do Instagram stories. Oh my God. And it's a little bit the bane of my existence. And every time I put a new story out, I'm a little bit better at it. So there's a learning curve. And
Are you like using stickers and using like filters?
I'm using stickers and filters. I'm drawing hearts with my fingers.
Yes.
I'm pointing to fun things with arrows. I'm getting it. I'm totally getting it. I'm putting sunglasses on people and giving them bunny ears. Like I
do really understand the substance and the depth of it.
Because I need to have my finger on the pulse with the young people.
Yeah.
But it's been fun. And every time I do a new one, I'm learning. And I have to say that maybe that's the key to growing older is like keep giving yourself something to learn.
That's right.
You know? Because
that's exactly
not only do you stop like being a dinosaur to your children, but you also are like staying relevant. You're keeping
and your brain is growing.
Yes, totally.
Yes, you're keeping your brain spongy. I was teaching a group of like 20-year-olds last week, a class in podcasting and sound editing. And I was like, if this old dog can learn this,
these little tricks.
These little tricks, then y'all have no excuses. Like if you're passionate about, if you want to make a podcast, if you want an Instagram story, Heidi, then what I was hoping you were going to say, the thing I want you to teach me, Heidi, is how to do Instagram TV.
Oh, that's not hard at all, Suze. That's super easy. Yeah, if you, I can tell you all about that. If you have a movie over a minute, it's just like a snizzy snap, Suze. I'll teach you how to do it as soon as we get off of this.
Oh my God,
I'm a pro at that.
You're going to teach me how to do it, and I'm going to share something that you made when I do it.
Okay, great.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
I think it's official that you are admitted into the SparkFile.
I'm so honored.
Flashpot.
Heidi, for people who don't know you, perhaps as well as Suze and I know you, can you tell them, how do you identify creatively?
Oh,
like what's your jam?
Recently changed. But I will say, I have historically, I have been an actress and a singer, and that morphed into I actually kind of started out being a dancer too. I'll throw that into the stew.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You're a hoofer.
Yeah, but then I met some people, including you two, where we created a show together that was called Title of Show. And then I added
It's a good show.
Collaborator and creator to that list.
Yes.
And then as the years have gone by and I have made my own. Cabaret is such a word that makes me itchy, and I mean,
how do you feel
no
about concert?
Concerts are better. I also want to say, I mean, no disrespect to people who embrace the cabaret, that is their jam, because I have seen cabarets that I'm just like, I love this, I love you doing this, but for some reason that word doesn't feel quite right on me.
Yeah.
But I have built my own concerts, we'll use that word. I would also say that I am a storyteller. I have written things now. And as I have evolved in my process as an artist, I have gained more confidence. And up and like, I would say 3 weeks ago, I also added producer to that list.
Yes!
And let me tell you, I know I have loved every second of it. And there is part of me that's like, wait a minute. Like, of course, I will always perform because I love doing that. I have a complicated relationship with performing, but I love performing. But this producing thing, I'm telling you, like, I don't know what it is. Maybe I just enjoy like the buck stopping with me and having more creative control. And it's been sexy, you guys. It's been really
so good.
I love it. Yeah. And I've done it with my husband too. And we enjoyed being business partners together. And I think it strengthened our relationship. It didn't hurt us. And so it's been a real, I would say, like a win for me. So
it's a huge win for all of us that we get to see what you're producing and creating too. So it's a win-win.
Good.
I would agree. Like the producing part of it, like at least, even though obviously we're not in control of all things, it does give one a sense of, at least I'm steering this ship. And if I don't like the direction it's going in, it's up to me to turn it, as opposed to feeling like, God, I wish someone would, head us in a different direction here.
Right.
You're not waiting for anyone else to do it. It's you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also like, because I'm coming to this in my later 40s, I have amassed so many skills on the way to grandma's house, like so many communication skills. So, I come from the back row of the ensemble, so I know what it's like to be grateful for every person inside the production machine. And so I feel like I know how to talk to people with respect. And like you were saying, Laura, when something is taking a left turn and I want to get it back on course, I feel like I now know, because of all the therapy I've also had, how to communicate those ideas in a respectful, concise way so that the people that I've invited in on this thing feel emboldened to continue doing their best. And kindness is a huge factor, and appreciating people for all that they're putting into the project. I mean, anyway, it's been, I feel like everything is lining up for me to just, keep walking down this awesome path.
That's right.
There are two people fighting over a parking space on the street outside my window.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
That's the kind of unity I'm talking about in Harlem. Love you, brother.
So Heidi, just to get a sense of your trajectory, can you tell us, so previously, as you were living as, primarily an interpretive artist, can you tell us what you were most well known for? And then take us along that path into becoming a producer and a creator and what you're working on now.
Well, you guys,
Heidi, I feel like you're one of those people that if you were like out in public and somebody started approaching you with that look of sort of like their heart was beating faster because they were seeing you, it could be anybody's guess what's going to come out of their mouth. Like
that
what's going to be
totally
the thing.
true.
Yeah,
that is true because I have had my fingers in more pies. Just enjoy that.
Ooh, but tell us about the pies.
I have done a lot of things, all of which I am so grateful for. But you know, I started out being in the ensemble of lots of shows as a singer, dancer, actor, and eventually, miraculously, that turned into doing that in a Broadway way. My very first show was the Full Monty, and I played Susan Hershey, who was in the ensemble. She's an ensemble character. And then I understudied. But
what's the first and last name?
Susan Hershey. Listen,
that's right.
I had a deep, deep spine with her. Researched
Did you do an extensive character study?
Right. Viewpoints. Yes, exactly. But that was my very first Broadway show. And, you know, you never forget that moment because it's what you've been dreaming about since you were, you know, a little peanut butter. And so when that happened, I totally couldn't really believe any of it. And every day was sort of like a shock.
But
I know.
Can we just pause here for just a second, and we're going to get to the rest of this question. But you have an amazing story about like the first time that you stepped onto a Broadway stage as a performer and meeting your fellow actors on stage.
That is correct.
Oh, tell us. Please tell us the story.
So I did the national tour of the Full Monty, the first national tour, as they used to be called, while the Full Monty was still playing on Broadway. And September 11th tragically happened. And when that happened, the world just stopped, much like it's stopping now. And the tour was sort of indefinitely paused, and we were all sent home. And I came home, and the Broadway show was also paused. And I can't remember exactly how long Broadway was kind of out of commission. It wasn't that long because I remember that we were all encouraged to get back to work and not let fear drive us and go to restaurants
spend your
money and don't be afraid. And so there was definitely this almost act of rebellion from New Yorkers, like, you're not going to scare us away from doing what we love. And so people did come back to the theater. Okay, so all the Broadway shows did come back to life. Kind of slowly at first, but then they got back to normal, I think sooner than any of us thought. And I had been home from the tour for about, 2 months. And the Broadway show had been back and running for about maybe a month. And I got a phone call from the PSM, Nancy Harrington, whom I will always love. And she said, "How do you feel about saving a Broadway show tonight?" And I was like,
oh shit. And, tonight?
That was, literally. And I was like, who is this?
How did you get this number?
But she explained the situation. And essentially, you know, the Full Monty, obviously, it's about the guys. It's about all the guys who end up, you know, refinding their self-esteems through doing this amazing show, which happens to be them taking their clothes off. But, the women in the Full Monty are not, they certainly are in the Full Monty, but the story mostly revolves around the guys. But I was asked on that night to, just the way things shook down at the Broadway theater, there was a lot of sickness going on in that theater. And just the way that the puzzle worked, so many women were either ill or on vacation or had a family emergency. All three things were rocking that theater that night, the Eugene O'Neill. And if they didn't bring someone in, they were going to have to cancel the show. And so Nancy said to me, "You're not going to be playing the Susan Hershey track," which was the ensemble track that I had played on the road. "You're going to be playing the role you understudied, which is a principal role, which is Vicki Nichols, which was played by the brilliant Emily Skinner."
Oh my God. This gives me a feeling in my butt.
And it was about, 4:00, and the show was at 8.
Oh my God.
She said, "What do you think?" And I said, yeah, I'll do that. And so I had my diarrhea, which I would continue to have all night long. And I was
first things first.
What costumes were they going to put me in? I was like, I can't even think about it. I can't. And I got myself to the Eugene O'Neill. I was met at the door by Dennis Jones, who was in the show and also the dance captain. And he, Dennis is so awesome. Dennis is now a Tony nominated choreographer, and he directs, and he's just the nicest guy in the whole world.
Yeah.
He put his arm around me and he was like, we're going to be fine. Don't worry. We're going to get you in. Don't worry. And we went out on stage and he walked me through. But like my brain was eating itself because I wasn't doing my track. I was doing a track that I understudied, which P.S. like I did go on the road. It was the brilliant Andrea Burns who played Vicki Nichols on the road.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I did go on. Andrea had a family emergency, and I went on once on the road when we were in Toronto. But I hadn't touched it since. And so it had now been, I don't know, at least 4 months since I had even thought about Vicki Nichols. And there I am, like about to go on. Okay, so Dennis walks me through. I'm going through the lines in my head. It's not a huge role, but it's an important role. And she has 2 songs. She's got a big solo in the first act, and she's got a beautiful ballad, I think maybe later in the first act, and a reprise in the second act. Anyway, it's not nothing. It's definitely not nothing.
Yeah.
And so I went over the whole thing, and then it was just one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the. It was happening so fast that there wasn't even time to like call anybody and say, can you please come and see this?
Come watch me in my play.
I know.
My Broadway debut.
Can I get a witness? Like it was crazy. It was so bananas. But anyway, so finally the stepping through it was over, and I went into the dressing room. And the other thing that is a notable memory is that I was obsessed with Emily Skinner. And I think when people come up in this business, they see people that are like them. And when I saw Emily, particularly in Sideshow, I was like, I am like that. I can do, if she can do that, I can do that. And I was so inspired by her. And she was definitely just somebody that I loved and watched and was a big fan of. And there I am in Emily Skinner's dressing room. And I'm surrounded
just
by
having
all of her
diarrhea
things,
in Emily Skinner's dressing
farting
room.
in her chair. And, it was very, Annie Golden came into my room with flowers. She went to this beautiful bodega across the way and got me 24 roses because literally nobody was there. It all happened so fast. And Annie took such good care of me. But so I get in my
and there was
costume.
no tweeting it out at that time.
Nope.
There was no let me take just 5 seconds and put this out on social media.
No.
Not possible.
No. And so I got into costume, which I think they pulled understudy costumes for me. I wore some other understudy who wasn't in the building because they were either sick or on vacation or something. And, they were pinning clothes to me because they were too big, too small, whatever. None of my clothes were there. And so my very first entrance as Vicki was with the actor Marcus Neville, who played Harold Nichols. And I met Marcus in the wings the night I went on for the first time. And he's such a cool dude,
but he's not met him like I'll see you in the wings, met him like it's nice to meet you.
Like met him, we're going on stage in 45 seconds. And
great to meet you.
And he was so chill. He was like, and I'm so high strung. And by that time I had evacuated my bowels. Otherwise I would have just pooped down my leather pants. But like and my head was spinning around me, and there's Marcus Neville, and he grabs me and we tango on stage, and he dips me and kisses me, and he says, "I'm Marcus Neville," after he kisses me on stage, center stage on Broadway. And I was just sort of like, to him it was just fun because it was, he had done the show hundreds of times by that point, and I think he probably thought this is going to be fun tonight, something new. And I got through it, and it was all of it was a blur. But that was my Broadway debut. And it just went moment to moment to moment. And then I ended up playing the role because that sickness and that vacation still was lingering in the company, I stayed for like a week to keep playing the role. And then there was a cast change up and they had me come back, and I went back into the Susan Hershey ensemble part. And I would continue to understudy Emily.
Amazing.
So yeah, that was my Broadway debut. Bananas.
So that was your Broadway debut. And then I think what we were asking, was what else are you most well known for?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, it really depends on who you ask. I think that there is a certain Heidi fan, which I'm grateful for every last one of them that know me best for title of show. And you know, that's the show. Suze, you may know it. Laura, you may also know it. The show we created together. It's pretty good. But that show resonates with so many people, not only the people who saw it, but now it's done literally all over the world in colleges, high schools, regional theaters across the United States of America. And so there are so many people that are now playing little Susans and little Heidis and little Jeffs and little Hunters. And so it has had such a pervasive impact. When on Broadway, how long did we run? Just a few months. July to October.
That's right.
It's like July to October and we were done. So it was a critical and fan success, but it was not a commercial success. So if you're the kind of fan that is getting all your Broadway love from cast recordings, a lot of people know me from Something Rotten or from Freaky Friday. What's interesting, before Freaky Friday happened, I felt like my biggest fan base I had the gay men, but then I did Freaky Friday, and now I have gay men and 7-year-old girls.
And you got the kids.
I got the kids. I run the gamut. But, you know, I've been lucky enough to do all kinds of different Broadway shows, classical shows. Like I did this, one of my favorite things I ever did was a revival at City Center Encores of Most Happy Fella, directed by Casey Nicola. And that was one of my very favorite things ever in the world. And every now and then when somebody walks up to me, they say, I saw you in Most Happy Fella. And I loved that so much. But you're right. Like people come at me from all, like I will be in a Target and I'll be buying school supplies for my kid. And there'll be a 4-year-old boy that will come up to me and say, are you the mom in Freaky Friday? And I'll be like, I got them everywhere. So I will take them. I love them. And,
they're coming out of the racks at Target.
No, this is actually a hilarious story. That little boy was stalking me in the school supplies section at Target, and he didn't say anything yet. And his mom eventually came back with him holding his hand, and she said, I'm sorry that he's staring at you. He keeps telling me you were in a movie. And I told him, no, she was not. And the little boy was like, yes, she was. Aren't you the mom from Freaky Friday? And I said, I am. And then she was so embarrassed. And we laughed and laughed.
When kids are right.
When 4-year-olds are right.
Kids are right.
That is amazing.
They're
Isn't
right.
that amazing? Yeah.
Up to a certain point, you spent your life being an interpretive artist.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then you have transitioned into being a creative and originating artist.
Yes.
Yeah.
And producer, I want to hear about this. Can you tell
producer.
us?
And a producer.
Tell us about how, like, what it is and how it came to be.
I will. I would love to.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I want to make or how I want to be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
That was part 1 of our conversation with Heidi Blickenstaff.
Part 2 will be available next week, unless it's the future, and then it's available now.
So go on, give it a listen, and find out what's sparking Heidi these days. Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the Chief Creative Officer and Chief Marketing Officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume.